Donald Trump and his regime seem to be pulling out all the stops to hide his troubling past. There's been a whole lot of chatter about how they plan to stop the release of the Epstein files, which, by the way, are due out on December 19th, thanks to current laws. It's something we've been keeping an eye on here at Signal Feed, watching as the plans from the Department of Justice and the FBI take shape. Their strategy appears to be that they'll claim they have already released everything required by law, indicating that any remaining documents are protected by court orders. Just last week, we showed how the DOJ anxiously rushed into federal court trying to get grand jury testimony released. Yet, according to federal rules, they can't actually do that. I anticipated that when the courts denied the release of this grand jury testimony, they'd spin it like the courts were the ones blocking documents. This could easily mislead those who aren't familiar with how court proceedings actually work, creating a narrative that there's nothing they can do if the courts are in the way. Currently, we have several interesting things going on. There are public records requests being made, and we have federal judges like Judge Tanya Chutkan who are fast-tracking those Freedom of Information Act requests to get their hands on the Epstein files. Then, there are other judges, including Judge Berman in New York, pushing back against the DOJ, demanding they outline all the documents related to the Epstein case.
Mr. Director, our viewers also are they're chomping at the bit on why it took the Epstein files so long to be released. Any regrets there? Was that an unforced error? Should we have gotten them out earlier? Just get them all out there? Just thought I'd give you a chance to react to that.
Yeah, look, this FBI has produced 40,000 pages of documents to Congress. To put that in comparison, Wray put out 13,000 in 7 years, and Comey put out 3,000. We're committed to transparency. We're putting out as much as we can that is lawful and that is not prohibited by court orders. And those are the things the DOJ is fighting still with judges in court to make sure we can reveal everything without breaking the law. And that's what we're committed to doing. We're doing it as fast as we can, and we're going to keep doing it, not just on this, but about Arctic frost because of this FBI's discovery of the illegal surveillance of senators and staff. You know about Russiagate because of mine and Devin's work from back in day, and we're going to continue those investigations.
They're making it clear that they won't let the DOJ set them up in this mess. In a recent chat on state regime media, which likes to call itself Fox, Kash Patel laid out the administration's plan for covering up these files. He was speaking with Laura Ingraham, who commented on how long the process has taken. She asked him if he thought they might have caught too much heat for the delay. And Kash Patel's response was quite telling. It's definitely interesting to see how the Trump administration is handling things. They claim they're making every effort to release as much information as possible that's legal and not restricted by court orders. But here's the catch. They're the ones deciding what they deem lawful. This means that when it comes to any sensitive issues or those big names that got mentioned but never actually faced charges, they won't be sharing their names. MAGA Mike Johnson pointed out something pretty dark. They're essentially creating a new class of victims by keeping those untouchables under wraps. It's unsettling to think about, but it's the reality they're painting. Now, as we get into this, you have to notice the role of the media. Propaganda media Fox is trying to reassure its audience, suggesting that they've done what they needed to do. Kash Patel even jumps in, boasting about releasing 40,000 documents already, continuing to emphasize that they're only going to share what's lawful and not prohibited by the courts. There's a clip I want you to pay attention to because it really sheds light on the situation. Here's a conversation where someone presses the director about the long wait for the Epstein files to be released, suggesting it might have been a missed opportunity to get them out sooner. You've got this new director who was a senior staffer on the House Intel Committee, and he's pretty determined to tackle what he calls the full weaponization that happened before he took the job. It sounds like he's on a mission that's far from over. While all this is going on, I've got some insights from Jason Leupold over at Bloomberg. This guy has been doing an exceptional job digging into the Epstein case, and he's got some pretty significant findings. He managed to get his hands on emails through a Freedom of Information Act request that provides a rare look at what's happening behind the scenes with the FBI's review of the Epstein files back in March. One notable piece of information is that Dan Bonino was included in an email discussing the types of redactions they needed to make. Redactions are where they cover up names or parts of emails for various reasons. Could be privacy, ongoing investigations, or even victims' names. This redaction project was ongoing during February and March. Now take a look at an email that was sent from Leslie Bakshi to Dan Bonino on March 18, 2025. In this email, she mentions, "Good talking with each of you yesterday. We're happy to support. I wanted to share the below as we seek guidance from the GC." Now, you might wonder what exactly is being redacted there. Is Trump's name hidden in that section? It raises questions when they say they're seeking guidance on how to handle the redactions. So, when Dan Bonino received this email, it seems he had a lot to think about. Remember, before he took on the role of Deputy FBI Director, he was already expressing concerns about cover-ups within the FBI. And here he is getting an email that seems to show just that. It makes you wonder how he feels about it all, especially after he chose to respond to Jason Leupold's reporting. So, I got started on the job on the 17th of March, and I requested to see some emails that were sent before I officially took over. It was important for me to review what had happened prior to my arrival. They responded right away, which was great. And now these emails are available for you all to check out. In one of the emails, Jason Leupold mentions that Dan Bonino replied to some FBI emails he got through a Freedom of Information Act request about how they were handling the Epstein files. Bonino pointed out that he became the deputy director the day before he received one of those emails. Although Bonino is glad the emails are out, he noted that the FBI is still sitting on 160 pages of information from Jason Leupold regarding the process of collecting those files. Now, just take a moment to think about this. The FBI isn't just holding back on the Epstein files. They're also keeping emails about how they searched for those emails back in March and April. When you look closer, Bonino mentions that he started his role on the 17th of March. It's interesting to think he was aware of the redactions happening at that time. What's really the point, Bonino? Additionally, as Leopold reports, there are still plenty of documents being withheld, especially those related to how they gathered the Epstein files. We also remember that Leopold got emails revealing that the FBI spent over $851,000 in overtime alone on the Epstein files just between March 17th and March 22nd. The documents show that FBI personnel racked up a staggering total of 4,737 hours of overtime from January to July, with over 70% of that happening in March while they were reviewing those files. Leopold recently revealed some of the divisions within the FBI that had to shift their focus to handle the Epstein case. Between March 15th and March 22nd, 934 FBI agents and other personnel reviewed the files, accumulating a whopping 14,278 premium pay hours, all leading to that hefty overtime cost of $851,000. Look at all these divisions that were diverted to deal with the Epstein files. It's quite a bit of work that was done. Everything's in order and ready to go now. They're pushing the deadline to December 19th, and soon enough we'll hear them claim it's because it's not lawful to release the information or that courts are blocking it. Just take a look at how many divisions are involved. The Counterintelligence Division, Counterterrorism Division, Criminal Investigations Division, Cyber Division, and all those others like Human Resources Inspection, International Operations, and even the New York City Division. They've poured a ton of resources into going over the Epstein files, focusing heavily on redactions. It's a straightforward pattern. Redact, 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 remove, cover up, cover up, cover up.
Number two, the discharge petition could create new victims, okay? Because it requires the DOJ to release information even in cases where the DOJ or the FBI has already reviewed it and determined it is not credible. It is false information. Doing this and requiring this to come out could ruin the reputations of completely innocent people, such as those who may just have known Epstein but knew nothing of his crimes, or whose names he exploited. Think of this, innocent people whose names he exploited and used to try to get close to his intended victims. Their names maybe in these files, and they had nothing to do with this. And so by just haphazardly releasing it, you're going to destroy their reputations. Releasing information containing the names of innocent people would subject those innocent people to a guilt by association. It would create an entirely new group of victims who have no means to clear their names.
And by the way, check out this email that Loopold received about the cameras in the special housing. So there's this interesting situation surrounding the investigation into Epstein's case. You know, there's this place called the MCC, the prison where he unfortunately passed away. It's equipped with a whopping 147 cameras, all supposedly recording day and night. However, when you dig into it, the cameras in the special housing unit where Epstein was held weren't even working at the time he was found. It's almost hard to wrap your head around that level of oversight. Now let me tell you about what Pam Bondi said recently. This was about a week and a half ago. The language she chose is quite telling, similar to what Kash Patel has been saying. There's a lot happening with the investigation surrounding Ghislaine Maxwell and the Epstein case, and it's all getting pretty intense. So, the Deputy Attorney General recently shared some info on social media, but they're keeping things under wraps for now since it's a pending investigation in the Southern District of New York. Maxwell isn't exactly forthcoming with the House of Representatives. Interestingly, she was willing to chat with Donald Trump's former lawyer, Todd Blanche. Of course, during that interview, she fibbed quite a bit. Now she's decided to invoke her Fifth Amendment right, choosing to stay silent with the House Oversight Committee, claiming there's some kind of cover-up going on. On top of that, it seems like Trump has her cozy in a minimum security facility down in Texas, and there are whispers that he might pardon her before his presidency wraps up. This wouldn't be his first rodeo with pardons, though. He already pardoned a former president of Honduras who had a pretty shady past involving drug trafficking thanks to Trump's personal lawyer, Emil Bo, who was involved in that prosecution. It's almost like Trump is setting the stage for when he eventually decides to pardon Maxwell, making it seem normal since he's already given a pass to some real bad actors in the drug and human trafficking world. So, it wouldn't be too surprising if he pardons someone like Maxwell when he's already shown he's willing to let go of serious offenders. You've got to love the way this all plays out. Meanwhile, MAGA Mike Johnson chimed in about a law that was passed to release the Epstein files. He argues that this could create new victims as the names in those files might get exposed and damage their reputations. Number 2, the discharge petition could create new victims. Okay? Because it requires the DOJ to release information even in cases where the DOJ or the FBI has already reviewed it and determined it is not credible. It is false information. Doing this and requiring this to come out could ruin the reputations of completely innocent people, such as those who may just have known Epstein but knew nothing of his crimes or whose names he exploited. Think of this. Innocent people whose names he exploited and used to try to get close to his intended victims. Their names may be in these files and they had nothing to do with this. And so by just haphazardly releasing it, you're going to destroy their reputations? Releasing information containing the names of innocent people would subject those innocent people to a guilt by association. It would create an entirely new group of victims who have no means to clear their names. That's a concern of Congress, and it should be. It should be. And that's the whole point of sharing this ahead of time. When December 19th comes around, we'll be able to see how things unfold. I've got to say, I really appreciate solid journalism, and Jason Loopold from Bloomberg is outstanding. It's important to recognize great work when we see it. As always, if you enjoy the content, hit that subscribe button.